Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, better late than never, right? Well, I feel bad because a while ago, Eric Bloat asked me, hey, do you mind reviewing this Cryptid manual, this thing I'm going to put up on Kickstarter, because I'm going to have a Kickstarter that's starting, I think it's launching on the 15th of January. It could be the 14th, but I'm pretty sure it's the 15th. So it's the 12th right now, and here I am making this video, and I think he talked to me originally about this late December. And so I've had this for a while. I've had a chance to read it, so I want to kind of review it and do my pre-Kickstarter video. Now this is essentially a bestiary, if you will, for use with his very popular Dark Places and Demogorgons role-playing game, which he kickstarted very, very successfully last year and did really, really well. I think it was last year. Could have been a year and a half ago. Anyhow, cool stuff. But so this book, I've had a chance to look through the entire thing, go through all of it. There's some really funny stuff that I'm going to say about this book. The first thing is, if you recall, I just made a video talking about RPG quality and all that sort of stuff, and how things like, art and layout are less important. The art and the layout in this book are really, really cool. This is a good-looking book. As I said before, Bloat Games seem to have been developing a look, and it depends upon the game line now, to be honest with you. The Vigilante City expansion, I forget the name of it, but it has developed a different look than this one. So anyway, I learned a new word. Let's see. The new word I learned was cryptid. Wasn't sure what that was. And these are entities that, let's see, an animal whose existence has been unsubstantiated. So these are like the Bigfoots, the Loch Ness monsters, the Chupacabra, the Mothman, all that kind of stuff. A lot of what you're going to find in this book are those type of things. And in fact, let's see, who actually wrote this book? Eric Bloat himself is the concept and project coordinator. Brandish Gilhelm did the layout, design, artwork, and editing. And then Jody Brandt, Questwise, has done writing and editing, and then Josh Palmer, who is Eric's other partner in crime in Bloat Games, did some writing and editing on this. So, the pretty good team. And I really, it's funny, I really dig the artwork in this book. It's very, very evocative. This book overall has a look to it, and the layout's done really, really well. Let's see if I can show you anything else that's really just evocative here. Let's see, and now I'm not seeing anything that's very evocative, or the thing that I want to show you, but just some really cool stuff. It's pretty much black, white and red, but just really, really well done, and just makes stuff pop out. What about the actual contents of the book itself? It bills itself as being a bestiary for Dark Places and Demogorgons, which to me is kind of like Scooby-Doo meets Stranger Things meets it's all those kind of movies or stories from the 80s with a bunch of kids encountering some kind of horrific monster. What this book has in terms of what's in it for the contents of the bestiary, and I think it's about 90 pages or so. There's some generic type monsters in there, in here. Some of them are a bit too generic, but that's like a minor quibble, like sometimes the Bigfoot, but there's several different kinds of Bigfoots. Occasionally I can see the D&D stats poking, through, but there's a lot of site-specific monsters. It's not just like a witch, it's the witch of this particular woods. It's the Mothman, or it's not just a spaceman, because there's several different kinds of spacemen here, but the spaceman of this particular area, and all the legends surrounding that. And that's really great flavor stuff. It's kind of odd, because if you read the foreword to this book, it's like from the standpoint of an old monster hunter, like you're reading his old manual. And if you start looking at where a lot of these beasts live, they're scattered throughout the entire world, or throughout the entire United States, if you just want to keep it to the United States, or whatever it happens to be. And you can seem kind of odd, because here we are playing Dark Places and Demogorgons, and we're playing it in Jeffersontown, maybe. We're playing in that one town with these kids in the high school. It's kind of almost like the Breakfast Club, meet Scooby-Doo. But I thought to myself, well, what happens with these kids later? After they encounter their first weird thing in high school, what if they level up, so to speak, and decide that they want to go out and see the world and investigate all these other sorts of rumors, and be those cryptozoologists, those people that actually go and look after the cryptids. What about this particular, the goat man of, old man, I'm terrible at making up these names, but the swamp of this or the mine of that. That's the kind of stuff that makes it really evocative. The other thing that I thought of as I'm reading through all these site-specific monsters or creatures in here, which range from the things that will just tear you apart to the mischievous, to the things that will lure children into the woods, never to be seen again. Like the shekels. I really like that particular one. because it's not big and giant and powerful. It's just something that is very evocative. And same thing with, I think it was the, oh man, I'm losing the name. It's the Spriggans. When you're walking through the woods and the branches are grabbing you, it's the Spriggans at work. All those sort of things. It reminded me of things like playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess, where nominally the idea is that you're playing in the real world. It could be, you know, back in 30 Years' War Europe, but you know, this evocative idea of that you encounter the creature that is rumored to haunt this particular wood, this particular area. I like that. So you can yank some stuff out of here. It gives you a lot of ideas. And so I can't tell you how many creatures there are because I forgot to count them. There's also a section of templates for kind of creating your own creatures or modifying you know, the stats of the creatures up or down, or adding different powers or abilities and what have you. It's really easy to import this into other games. It uses a lot of the mechanics and what have you from Dark Places and Demogorgons, but I can see using it with Vigilante City or using it with, you know, Lamentations of the Flame Princess or some white box stuff or what have you. It's pretty easy to, you know, convert and what have you. So I like what's in here. And it ranges, like I said, there's a few things that are a little bit too generic for me, but there are things that are very, very unique, which, you know, those are the ones that really pop out to me. So it's definitely worth it. This is my year of being honest, you know, as the videos I just produced talked about. There are a couple issues with the book. They're really, really minor. I remember giving Eric a hard time way back, you know, privately. Like, you know, he has done a good job at improving the editing quality in the books and getting rid of things like the typos and the errors and just, you know, whatnot. I did find a couple things in here. There's a typo or two. There's at least one cut and paste error. It's easy to spot. It's confusing for a second. Then you realize, oh, that's just something that like was from the previous entry. There's one or two examples of using the wrong version of a word for something. I think there might be like a grammar thing. I'm just being, you know, nitpicky here. And there's something that it's a procedural error. I think in the morale rules in the back of the book, where it tells you to roll, you know, if you roll morale or higher, you succeed, when really you roll morale or lower. That was the one procedural thing I caught. Like, oh, that sounds weird. Oh, I see what they did there. So these are like minor. You know, he's done a really good job compared to like the first products I looked at to now, to like getting rid of a lot of that stuff. But it does point to the need for using somebody else besides the authors and the creators as an editor. So, you know, another pair of eyes to go through there before. And to be fair, you know, I don't know if this is just like a first-run proof book and they may have fixed some stuff afterwards. You know, like I said, it's really, really minor, but stuff that, like, as a community, we kind of need to work on. That's like my little negative slant. Other than that, everything else in here is really, really awesome, and it's, you know, those are not things that like are make or break. There's a lot of rules in the back of the book. Like, you know, as I'm starting the book up, and it starts up with a flavor text, and it starts to jump right into the monsters after giving me this one page of let's see, stat block elements or whatever it happens to be, letting you know, like, you know, what these various terms mean. You know, like, you know, move and what have you. There's a lot of other terms that show up in the book that aren't referenced there. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's just because they're using the Dark Places and Demogorgon's core and what have you. But then in the back, there's this last chapter after the templates going over a lot more tables and terms. And I was surprised to see that in the back of the book. And this is just Ivan. It doesn't really make a difference. Because what you find is a lot of the extra rules to how to use all these terms end up in the back of the book rather than the front of the book, which was a little bizarre. You know, I thought it probably could have belonged in the front of the book. In fact, if I'm going to be super nitpicky, I can't find that in the contents. It only ends up with templates. Well, random encounter tables, morale rules, updated and useful game rules. Doesn't have like a real bold thing there, so it's easy to kind of miss that there's all these extra rules in the back. And then as I was reading the end of the book, I'm like, oh, well, okay, there they are. Oh, there's a lot of good stuff in here. So that's, you know, minor niggle, but the information's in there. That's the point. So the Kickstarter starts the 15th. I absolutely think it's worth it. You know, if you like the Dark Places Demogorgons, if you like that vibe, not a bad little product, and it's good looking. They did a good job with that. All right, take it easy, kids.